The scene starts in the snowy mountains, and then we see a cave where we can hear someone asking a man about the ancient relic and mockingly asks him if he could escape the encirclement. Then we see the man is injured, and his hand is severed. He says, "Are you idiots? Would you just tell that to others if you were me?" Then we see a man cursing him and going towards him, but the other guy stops him and says that they need to contact the main squad first. Then he holds a magic stone and informs them that they have caught the Northern Phantom. "Please confirm our coordinates," he says. A voice from the stone says that they have confirmed the coordinates. Then the guy says to the Northern Phantom, "You are really persistent, still hanging in there even though your arm's been cut off." He then asks, "Why are you also after the relic that the Emperor is after?" But the Northern Phantom stays silent, listening as they continue to say that they have suffered for so many days because of him and need to have some fun with him before the main squad arrives. He sits there in front of them with both of his hands severed, and they threaten to torture him until he begs them to kill him. Then one of them tosses a coin, saying that if it's heads, he will start first. But then we see the Northern Phantom using his mouth to grab the hand and attach it back. He thinks, "I will not end this without being able to do anything. I am the Draker household's first failed awakener, and my name is Zeke Draker, because he was born into the great DragonSlayer household with a body that can't use aura. He was treated as trash and chased out of his household. He did everything to survive." He gets ready with his sword, and we see that the coin flip result is heads. The guy is happy, but suddenly, his head gets severed by Zeke's attack. The other guy is unable to do anything. Looking back, he sees Zeke with a determined look in his eyes. He gets ready to fight, but when Zeke attacks, the strike goes through his sword, and he is killed with a single sword strike. Zeke picks up his other hand and attaches it back. The others, shocked, say that he is an irregular, and they prepare to attack him. The fight starts with Zeke surrounded by them. Then the scene shifts, and we see Zeke pierced by many swords, but all his enemies are defeated. As he coughs up blood, he thinks that he will die soon, and even though he couldn't take his revenge, he was able to steal the relic the Emperor was after. He closes his eyes, blood dripping from his head, and murmurs, "Sorry, Alicia," but then suddenly, the relic starts to glow as the drops of blood come in contact with it. A notification appears, saying, "Your strong will can awaken an ancient power." We then see a golden dragon and a figure standing behind Zeke. Another notification comes, saying, "The soul of the elder dragon is engraved upon the will of the one who persists, and an urgent measure has been activated." Zeke Draker, do you agree? He thinks that he is hearing random nonsense now that he is about to die, and he says, "Do as you please." Another notification comes up, saying, "The Awakener's agreement has been confirmed, and an irreversible, promised power is being activated." Then the countdown starts from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The scene shifts and we see a boy, Zeke Draker, thinking that when he regained consciousness, he looks like this. Did he go back to the past? He can still feel the sensation of swords being stuck into his stomach vividly. Laying down, he thinks that this place is familiar. It is the Cradle, the Draker Household Training Institute. We get to know that Draker is the DragonSlayer family, one of the 3 great transcendent households. Terrakin Draker was the hero who saved the continent by killing the evil dragon Bahamut in the war 1,000 years ago. His descendants founded the current Draker household, and all the descendants of the Draker bloodline had the blessing of aura. They were able to easily awaken their high-level aura and become knights, all except for him. A panel appears, saying that the administration system is restarting. He gets up, thinking, "Did I mishear that?" Again, a panel appears, saying, "The soul of the Awakener has been confirmed. The soul is aligned 100%, and the soul has received the will of the Elder Dragon and is being merged completely." The screen reflects in his eyes as he reads, and then the notification says that he has obtained authority to a part of the system. "Nice to meet you, Zeke Draker," it says. Activating status window. Viewing in front of him, a blue panel starts to appear. He thinks there are tons of magic video-like things. Did an artifact get activated? Then he sees his status window. He has a healer class and he can see his class skills, and draconian skills. He tries to touch it and his hand goes through. He notices that he can navigate through it. He also notices a section of class skills and that the draconic language isn't used in the current age. His master had told him that people of the ancient world would categorize themselves into classes depending on what they were good at. Since he is a healer, he can use a skill called healing. He remembers that after he awakened, she trained him until he was on the verge of death. He thinks that according to the status window, he is already a healer. He tests if the things the status window says are true, and he thinks that he became a healer in his 20s when his ether hall was unlocked. Suddenly, we see a purple glow. As soon as he opens his eyes, he is happy because his ether hall is already unlocked. He understands that even though his trained body no longer exists, he has returned to the past with his skills and memories. He is in a much more advantageous position now. Sitting down and scrolling through the system, he thinks, in order for me to make use of this, I need to find out what I have at my disposal first. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door, and he is startled. We hear him say, "Master Zeke, may I come in?" He continues, "It's useless to act like you're not there." Zeke tries to turn it off and hide it, but the door opens. We see Zeke's exclusive servant, Decker, come in. He says he can't believe Zeke isn't prepared at all. "What on earth are you thinking?" Zeke asks, "Prepared for what?" and notices that others can't see the system. The servant asks, "Are you seriously asking me that?" Zeke remembers that he was really scared of Decker when he was young, and the fear is engraved into his body. Suddenly, a skill called Composed Mind gets activated, and his nervousness disappears in an instant. We see the description of the class skill Composed Mind. Sitting, Zeke reads and thinks that it's really convenient that it activates automatically. Decker says that he's already told Zeke the importance of this event. "Are you even listening?" He talks about the evaluation test, Pankration, and Zeke remembers his past self, who was humiliated in this competition. Then we get to know that all Drakers go through a training system called the Cradle, starting when they are 7 years old. For 5 years, they go through strict basic training, and the instructors evaluate the incoming students each year through a competition of swordsmanship as well as combat in Pankration without rules. The opponents are chosen by the instructor, but there are occasions when the students choose whom they fight. Since there are no rules, sometimes there are people who don't make it out alive. This competition is what determines the class the students are placed into within the academy, and the children have no choice but to fight with all they have. Then the scene shifts to the present as today is the day of Pankration. The instructor asks the students if they are aware that this is the last part of the evaluation, and the students reply, "Yes, sir." Then the head instructor, Panmark, says that they will get started right away and that they should prepare themselves. The students, now determined, notice Zeke and start to discuss among themselves. He's here again after the humiliation he went through last year. Some say, "I would have run away if I were him." Zeke, hearing them clearly, thinks to himself. The instructor calls a guy named Aaron and tells the contestants to get ready and begin the fight. As the fight starts, the guy charges with his fist. Just as it's about to reach Aaron, Aaron delivers a kick to his opponent's face, knocking him out. Aaron wins. Zeke, watching from the sidelines, thinks that he used to be deathly afraid of this when he was young, but now these guys are nothing. He yawns, but someone else is watching him. Leon, cracking his knuckles and glaring with red eyes. After some time, it's Zeke's turn to battle Leon. The instructor asks if they're ready. Zeke thinks that his opponent just had to be Leon. Leon taunts him, saying, "Look at you, back here again. Guess you didn't get enough of my attention last year." Zeke remembers his past, where he begged Leon to spare him. Leon has been his opponent every year, pulling strings behind the scenes. Zeke reflects that his household would say things like, "You have to be able to overcome such dirty tricks to be a true DragonSlayer." He wonders why this piece of trash had to be his cousin. In his past life, the 4 siblings of the direct bloodline never had the chance to meet, but there were more than a dozen cousins who were more than willing to bully him. Leon continues, "Did you not learn your lesson last time?" Zeke's skill, Composed Mind, activates. He thinks it's been a while since he had to listen to Leon's stupid insults. Zeke responds, "I won't be nice if you call me that again." Leon grabs Zeke's head, saying, "What are you going to do, you inferior piece of shit?" Suddenly, Leon is sent flying from a punch by Zeke. Critical strike activates, and we see its description. Leon grabs his face, screaming. Zeke looks at his hand, thinking the skill activated just from a normal punch. The instructor, shocked, asks Zeke what he was doing, attacking before the start signal. Zeke replies, "Who says ready, set, go on a battlefield? The one who hits first has the advantage." The instructor, sweating, feels bloodlust coming from Zeke. Leon, regaining composure, says he's fine and asks the instructor to start the fight. He vows to kill Zeke. Zeke remarks that Leon hasn't learned his lesson. As the instructor signals the fight to begin, Leon rushes at Zeke, who's in a defensive position. Leon thinks that Zeke, with his guard up, isn't a threat, but he should be cautious of a left-hand counter. Zeke attacks with his left, which Leon dodges. Leon grabs Zeke's leg, telling him to die. But suddenly, Leon's face turns pale, and he starts to shake. Zeke is on the ground, and Leon wonders what just happened. The instructor, staring in disbelief, thinks, "You're telling me this is the combat sense of a 12-year-old? He analyzes that the moment Leon dodged Zeke's counter and attempted a takedown, it seemed like Leon had won. However, Zeke had kicked Leon's chin and escaped his grasp. Leon had thought he had Zeke, but Zeke remained calm, even when his counter failed. The instructor wonders if this is really the Zeke Draker he knew. Leon, pale, thinks that he can't continue like this and considers creating distance. But before he can act, Zeke kicks him in the leg, causing him to fall. Leon, regaining balance, tries to punch Zeke, but Zeke, completely calm, activates heightened senses and dodges the punch effortlessly. A purple aura surrounds Zeke's fist as he thinks that he's gotten used to controlling ether. Zeke grabs Leon's arm, swiftly knocking him to the ground, then activates pierce stabbing, stabbing Leon in the chest. The skill description appears, noting that it does critical damage to weak points. Leon's bones crack as Zeke, with a menacing expression, says, "Even an idiot like you should be able to learn a lesson." He continues to beat Leon mercilessly as the instructor and students watch in shock. They think, "What is this?" Zeke stands up, feeling clear-headed after sweating. He addresses the crowd. "I recognize some of you. If you have something to say, come down here." Then, a student calls out to Zeke Draker, saying that he chose him as his Pankration opponent. With a smug face, he adds that he has something to say, just as Zeke had mentioned. Zeke recognizes him as Jaken Vardek, another cousin. Zeke responds, "It's fine, but you alone are so boring." Liam Stone, Jaken's servant, joins him, and Zeke, with a smiling face, says, "This makes the fight fair." Jaken, now angry, asks if Zeke just insulted him. Zeke mockingly replies, "Of course, dumbass." We see Jaken getting really angry, thinking to himself about beating Zeke to death. As they step onto the stage, the instructor warns Zeke not to do anything before he gives the signal. Zeke agrees. He thinks that it's interesting to see Liam again, here in the cradle. In his past life, Liam had joined the academy as Jaken's servant, but he was left behind in education. Liam begged to join the higher education academy, Valhalla, but in the end, he joined a knight order of a small nation called Baranon. Once Baranon fell, Liam became a mercenary, and with his experience, he rose to become the strongest Red Knight, known as the Mercenary King. He united the 3 strongest mercenary groups, and when the Empire hired the Stone Mercenaries, Liam entered the Continental War. Zeke, along with the other Northlanders, faced Liam as a foe. Zeke smiles, thinking, it can be different this time. The instructor announces the start of the fight. Jaken swiftly throws a punch at Zeke, but Zeke catches his fist, saying, "I told you to come at me together." Jaken pulls his hand back, saying, "Do you think I'll play along with your cheap tricks?" He attempts to kick Zeke, but suddenly feels immense pain as his leg hurts. Zeke, holding his elbow up where Jaken tried to kick, tells him, "Look properly before you kick." Jaken notices that his leg is in bad shape. Suddenly, Zeke rushes to attack, preparing his fist for a punch. Jaken brings his hands up to block, but Zeke asks mockingly, "Aren't you a little too scared that you couldn't even predict the feint?" We see that Zeke kicked Jaken where he was previously hurt, then swiftly punched his ribs, saying, "This is why I told you to come at me together." Jaken starts to bleed from his mouth, and Zeke comments, "You alone aren't enough." Jaken, lying on the ground, calls for Liam and orders him to kill Zeke. As Liam steps forward to fight, Zeke thinks, isn't he also 12 like us? And the most annoying thing about fighting him is his insane reach. Liam stretches his arm, and Zeke moves forward, thinking that he wouldn't be able to do anything if he lets Liam attack first. With a purple aura surrounding him, Zeke attacks Liam, but Liam is on guard. Zeke activates his skill slash and attacks Liam from all sides. Everyone is shocked by the fight, exclaiming, "This is insane." The instructor, in his mind, thinks, "You must be curious because you've never seen this before." Zeke is performing the northern fist-fighting technique in the Midland, where swords dominate. Zeke begins to feel pain and thinks to himself that his body was really trash when he was young. Besides that, Liam's monstrous physique is a problem, as he's blocking all of Zeke's attacks. Zeke realizes that his body is reaching its limits. Determined, he charges his next attack, saying that he wants to test just how strong Liam's body really is. He plans to take Liam down through his guard. Throws a strong punch at Zeke, but instead of blocking, Zeke dodges the punch. Frustrated, Zeke suddenly finds his hand grabbed by Liam, who is about to throw him to the ground. But Zeke counters by kicking Liam in the head. Using his heightened senses, Zeke performs a series of quick moves. He grabs Liam's neck with his legs, holds onto Liam's arm, and begins choking him. Zeke thinks, no matter how strong his body is, he can't do much without oxygen. Liam, in response, starts punching Zeke with his left hand. Zeke smirks and says, "You're one crazy bastard. Let's wait and see who comes out on top." The other students watch in shock. After a brief struggle, we see that Liam is knocked out, and Zeke is declared the winner. In the audience, someone thinks to themselves, "I expected this much from him. It will be worth taking him down." Zeke Draker. The scene shifted in the castle's room where Zeke and his servant were present. The servant asked Zeke, "I heard that you were greatly injured in Pankration. Are you all right, young master?" Zeke replied, "Yeah, I am totally fine." The servant, still concerned, wanted to check his pulse. Zeke thought, why does he want to check my pulse? Maybe he wants to see if I've awakened my aura. Zeke extended his hand, allowing the servant to check his pulse. As the servant checked, Zeke was shocked to see a blue aura. He thought, is he a blue knight? When you're checking whether someone has awakened, you usually just take a look at their dantian. Zeke was astonished at how precisely the servant could control his aura and thought, he has got to be a blue knight. Not all knights are the same. They are classified according to their martial prowess and aura manipulation proficiency. He recalled the knight classifications: white swordsman, the novice level where most children are before the blessing rite; yellow swordsman, the level achieved after awakening aura and opening the dantian. Most trainees of the cradle become yellow swordsmen after the blessing rite; purple knight, the level where one can reinforce their sword with aura; blue knight, the level where one can manifest an aura blade; red knight, the realm of those who have transcended their limits, such as the mercenary King Liam, a level Zeke reached before his regression; black knight, rare monsters, with only a few existing across the entire continent. Zeke was shocked, thinking, how did someone skilled enough to be a commander end up acting as my babysitter? However, he reassured himself, there's no way he can detect my ether. The servant, with a suspicious look, asked, "Are you hiding something from me, young master?" Zeke replied, "Why are you hiding something from me?" Then, the servant chuckled and said, "No worries, I'm just joking," and turned to leave. As he left, he remarked, "Young master, you've changed a lot recently." Zeke stopped him and said, "Your question is wrong, Decker. You should be asking why I have only changed now." Decker was confused, but Zeke continued, "From here on, many more things will change." The servant bowed and said, "I will follow you, young master." Decker then informed him, "Master, I prepared the training room as you requested." Zeke was pleased. "Good. I like that you're as fast as always," he said, leaving the room. As Zeke walked toward the training room, he thought, "Why is Decker keeping an eye on me? Who told him to do it? It must be one of my siblings from my father's side." The training room was vast. Before starting his training, Zeke checked his system. He noticed that his slash skill had become proficient and thought, "Does it improve the more I use it? Are new skills added when I learn something new? What's the difference between a skill and a class skill?" Zeke noticed another locked skill, Draconian skill, which required karma points to unlock. Karma points could be earned by defeating monsters in dungeons. However, to enter dungeons, he needed to be a purple knight. He also pondered, why did I regress to the past? What is this system? Setting these thoughts aside, he picked up his sword and started training to become stronger. In the world, there were two primary powers. Knights, they reinforce their aura in dungeons. Mages, they manage their mana through circles. Zeke reflected on his past, recalling how his household abandoned him. During his vagabond days, he met his master, who taught him many things. The most useful lessons were healing and mastering the ether hall. He and his master were the only ether users in the world. After 2 hours of intense training, Zeke felt exhausted. He used his recovery spell to heal himself fully. A flashback of a past fight where he was beaten surfaced in his mind. Fully recovered, he resolved, "I will keep going." He continued training until dinner time. The scene shifted to 1 week later in the Cradle's cafeteria. People were discussing Zeke, marveling at how different he seemed now. Some even suspected he dabbled in black magic. At dinner, his cousins Raina Turin and Owen Zimmerns were present. Owen, observing their eating habits, said, "You guys eat like barbarians. Eat properly." The conversation turned to Zeke. Owen remarked to another sibling, "You need the energy for the swordsman duel. Weren't you beaten by Zeke?" This annoyed the sibling, but Owen continued, "Pankration was savage but impressive at the same time." With a creepy smile, Owen asked, "What can he do when he can barely hold a sword?" The sibling who had been beaten retorted, "He won against me by luck." Raina, with a terrifying expression, snapped, "Luck? If you think it was luck, then you people have no right to be knights of the Draker household." The scene shifted to the day of the much-anticipated sword duel. Unlike Pankration, where fists and grapples were used, this was a duel with real swords. The tension in the air was palpable as cadets and onlookers gathered to witness the matches. Zeke Draker stood confidently in the arena, gripping an unusually large sword that caught everyone's attention. From the back, whispers and mocking remarks began to circulate. What's the deal with the oversized sword? Does he think a big sword makes him stronger? He's just trying to look intimidating. Zeke ignored the taunts, his focus unwavering. Suddenly, a sharp voice called out to him, "Zeke Draker." The voice belonged to none other than Raina Turin. She stepped into the fighting area, her presence alone silencing the crowd. With an intense and angry look, she declared, "I choose you as my opponent." Zeke smirked, unfazed. "Sounds good," he replied, accepting the challenge without hesitation. As Raina unsheathed her sword, her thoughts betrayed her composed exterior. Is this really Zeke? The boy who could barely hold a sword properly? Has he changed because he grew stronger? Or is it his aura? She tried to push her confusion aside, calming herself to focus on the fight. Meanwhile, Zeke was deep in thought. "So, I'm facing the Lightning Knight, Raina Turin. She made a name for herself during the Continental Wars and awakened her aura even before undergoing the Blessing Rite. But why hasn't she used her aura here in the Cradle? Is she trying to improve her fundamentals?" The fight began. Raina attacked first, her speed blinding, but Zeke blocked her strike effortlessly and pushed her backward. In an instant, she darted behind him, attempting another strike. Zeke's instincts kicked in, and he managed to block her again. The force of her attack sent him sliding back. The crowd erupted in cheers and jeers. "Don't toy with him, Raina. Finish him in one strike." From the sidelines, other siblings watched in disbelief. Does it look like Reina's toying with him? That idiot Zeke is holding his own. Reina's sharp eyes scanned Zeke's movements, sensing gaps in his defense. However, no matter how swiftly she tried to exploit them, Zeke's sword always met hers in time. Frustrated, she thought, this feels less like a duel and more like training meant to teach me something. Despite her exhaustion, Zeke remained steady, analyzing her every move. He thought, why is she holding back? Her swordsmanship is honest and precise, expected from someone obsessed with fundamentals. But maybe it's time I help her break out of her shell. Taking an extremely low stance, Zeke prepared a risky move. Reina's eyes widened. He intends to close the gap in one strike. She readied herself, calling out, "Come, Zeke Draker." Zeke lunged forward with incredible speed. Reina dodged his attack, relying on her agility to maintain distance. As long as she kept space between them, she believed she could react in time. Zeke continued pressing his attacks relentlessly. Reina dodged each one until dust was suddenly kicked up into her eyes. Disoriented for a moment, she wiped her eyes. In that split second, Zeke closed the distance and struck. Reina's heart sank. I'm finished. At the last moment, she retaliated, deflecting Zeke's sword. His weapon flew into the air, and the crowd erupted into boos. Zeke lost, as expected. However, the referee noticed something the others had missed. Reina had used the faintest amount of aura to deflect Zeke's attack. She had promised herself never to use aura until she entered the academy, but Zeke had forced her hand. Seeing his chance, Zeke charged with dark determination and punched Reina in the neck. She collapsed to her knees, coughing up blood. The crowd erupted in outrage. This is a sword duel. Shame on you, Zeke. Zeke ignored them and asked Reina, do you want to continue? Reina, still stunned, thought to herself, did I lose because I let my guard down? Or is this something else? She looked up at Zeke and admitted, it's my loss. The battlefield fell silent in shock. Reina sheathed her sword and walked off without another word. The referee announced, the winner is Zeke Draker. The crowd remained in disbelief as Zeke stood tall, victorious. The scene shifted to the battlefield, where numerous soldiers were throwing dead bodies off the hill. Meanwhile, in the castle, two individuals were deep in conversation. One of them asked the other, Abel, how are you drinking tea in this situation? Abel, lost in thought about Zeke, replied, William, you're always so serious. He stood up, walked toward the window and gazed outside. His mind wandered as he grew curious about what kind of awakening their youngest would experience. On the other side, Zeke's victory had left the entirety of the cradle in shock. The scene transitioned to a month later, where Zeke was training in his room. He seemed confused as he pondered how he managed to become a red knight with the physical body he had in his previous life. Opening his status window, he saw that things were progressing as expected. Once his skill mastery surpassed the expert level, the skill rank would increase, and the mastery would reset. Zeke had even managed to raise his mastery of swift steps, a skill he gained during a duel. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. It was Decker, his servant. Sir, we are leaving in 2 hours, Decker informed. All right, I'll join you soon, Zeke replied. Shortly after, Zeke and Decker left the castle to visit the main estate. The estate belonged to the Draker family, whose main residence was located in the heart of the continent. Finally, Zeke arrived at the estate of the Draker family, known as the Dragon's Nest Lair. As he entered the hall of the castle, Zeke remarked to himself, I never realized this before. He was certain that his family had sent informants to keep an eye on him. He also knew that if he failed his awakening, they would likely abandon him. Suddenly, Zeke saw someone and grew visibly furious. Why is that bastard here? He muttered. An announcer asked the person in question, Why are you attending the blessing rite? Has anyone in the class caught your eye? The man responded, Not at all. I have my own reasons. That person was none other than Abel, the second son of the Draker family, also known as Lion Blade Abel Draker. Zeke and Abel shared an intense eye contact. Zeke was livid, muttering under his breath, He's not Lion Blade, He's the butchering knight. Abel. Zeke tried to calm himself, thinking, I can't act out right now. In his past life, Abel had never attended the blessing rite, and Zeke was confused. Are my actions changing my future? He wondered. The blessing rite began. The first name called was Aaron. He stepped forward, approached the blessing pond, rolled up his sleeves, and dipped his hand into the pond. The process pricked his skin to draw blood. Suddenly, a blue aura emerged and spread through the air. During the blessing rite, every member of the Draker bloodline awakened their sealed aura. In rare cases, along with their aura, they would awaken a trait of the DragonSlayer known as mana inhibition. Then, something unusual occurred with the mana lamps. Red light shone brightly, shocking everyone. Red aura and black aura required special gloves made by their family to handle. When someone proved their pure-blooded descent, they were conferred the Draker name. Finally, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. Looks like we have the main dish now. What kind of awakening will he go through? People whispered as Zeke Draker stepped forward. Zeke thought to himself, I never imagined I'd stand in front of this damned statue again. Memories of his last awakening, when he was insulted and given a shameful title, flooded his mind. This time, however, things were different. He could heal, manipulate mana, and stand up for himself. Thinking this, he addressed the statue. Please, take care of me, you damned bronze statue. As Zeke placed his hand on the blessing pond, the statue began to shake and then suddenly stopped. Everyone was stunned. This had never happened before. Abel watched intently. Zeke felt demotivated and muttered to himself, I knew it. I shouldn't have expected things to change. He blamed himself for becoming overconfident, thanks to that bastard. As whispers about his failure spread, Zeke thought these people will never change. Suddenly, a notification popped up on his window. It was an applause message, but it had been delayed due to an error. Confused, Zeke examined the status window and discovered that some information was missing. The window confirmed that his class had been unlocked and that he had obtained a rare class. Shocked, Zeke turned back toward the statue. Red lights began to shine from it, leaving everyone speechless. A pure blood awakening, someone exclaimed. Zeke checked his status window, and even Abel looked shocked. The window revealed your awakened talents, combined with rare talents. Zeke muttered, what the hell? He had unlocked a unique class and awakened as an immortal. Everyone in the hall was shocked. A golden light? Is this even a pure blood awakening? Zeke thought to himself, of course, they'll have doubts. But it'll work against me if I say something here. Everyone was whispering. Is the sword statue broken? There was no mana inhibition. It can't be a pure-blooded awakening. Abel, however, was happy. He clapped and said to everyone in the lobby, why are you all acting so serious? We got 2 pure blood awakenings in one batch. Isn't this something to celebrate? A few people were not happy, but they pretended to be. Others genuinely celebrated. Yeah, we got 2 pure blood awakenings. What a blessing. Suddenly, Abel turned to the announcer. What are you doing? Go get a glove for our newest member. The announcer bowed and said, yes, sir. Zeke, confused, thought to himself, this is quite hefty, as he began walking toward the door. Meanwhile, the blessing rite continued. Zeke wasn't happy. After receiving help from Abel, he felt irritated. This feels like shit, he muttered under his breath. The announcer then declared, this marks the end of the blessing rite. We will have a party soon. Zeke was leaving and grumbled, party my ass. His mind was preoccupied with thoughts of training when, suddenly someone called him. Turning back, he didn't expect to see Abel approaching him. Abel asked, where are you wandering off to so early into the party? Zeke thought, I didn't expect to make contact with him so soon. They made eye contact. Abel congratulated him on his pure blood awakening and extended his hand for a handshake. Zeke feigned happiness, but inside he thought, if I refuse, my hostility toward him will show. Reluctantly, he moved to shake Abel's hand. But as he did, a flashback of his past life struck him, and he suddenly stopped. Abel looked confused. This is awkward, Zeke, Abel said with a devilish laugh. Zeke, thinking, even for the sake of saving face, I can't shake this scum's hand, remained silent. It can't be helped, Abel said, patting Zeke's shoulder. I'll see you again. Then he left. Zeke, furious, touched his shoulder and muttered, Sure. I'll see you again. After the blessing rite, during the after-party, the guests were discussing the unexpected events. Many were talking about the golden light and Zeke's awakening. Meanwhile, Zeke was resting in his room, exhausted. He thought about the day's events and wondered, a pureblood awakening requires gloves? He opened his status window and noticed something was completely different. Sitting on a chair, he scanned through his skills and said, I was a rare healer before the rite, but now I'm a unique immortal. Then he recalled, wait, everyone in the rite had a blue aura, but Reina had a red one. And I also had red, which turned to gold. At that moment, the system's terminal went haywire during the rite. As soon as it stabilized, the bronze statue began emitting a red light. Zeke finally pieced it together. The statue of light didn't just signify awakening. It classified your class. Red meant a rare class, while gold signified a unique class. The bronze statue, an ancient relic used by the founders of the Drakers, had misinterpreted the red light of a rare class as a pure-blood awakening. Zeke scrolled through his status window and saw a karma points option. Intrigued, he decided to try it. Numerous skill options appeared. Confused about what to choose, he saw dragon eyes among the options. Thinking it might be useful, he selected it. He activated the skill but noticed no immediate changes. Curious, he stepped onto the balcony. Looking down at a statue in the garden, he wondered, could the skill really be useful? He saw an option for detailed information on the statue, clicked it, and was bombarded with data. Exhausted, he slumped back into his chair and noticed another skill, healing factor. When he activated it, his wounds suddenly healed. He realized all his class skills had turned into passive abilities, with their levels increased. Reflecting on the past, Zeke thought, healing was an overpowered skill I could spam continuously. But this new healing factor, it's infinite. To test it, he picked up a knife from the table, made a small cut on his hand. As the wound healed instantly, he exclaimed, No way! Looking at the Academy's timeline, he laughed and said, Does the Academy take 5 years to finish? I'll finish it in 2. Stay tuned for part 2 and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.